Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Awesome Sunday Show. Pat here.
This is Connor speaking.
Okay, now I know we haven't talked about Daredevil in a while. We're going to get back to that most likely by the time Jessica Jones comes out. But today we're going to be talking about something that I've been waiting longer to talk about and have been wanting to talk about much more, which is, Connor?
We're going to be talking about The Flash finally.
Because Connor finally watched some of it, which isn't bad.
I'm into it. It's really good.
It took him long enough. All right, so Connor, so far, being a huge Flash fan, what do you think of the episodes you've watched?
All right, so I've watched the first 4 episodes so far. I love it so far. You know what? It's not exactly like the comics, which I like, but it is really close.
Yeah,
it is like really close.
It's very accurate. Obviously, they're going to take some liberties and switch it around.
Well, yeah,
a lot,
and that's normal.
Yeah,
and I would want that
to be expected.
Yeah, and I want that. I don't want everything to be 100% like it is like in the original comics, or because it's different people with different creative views going on to it. And I would like to see their view.
Exactly.
But like, you know what? It pays. There is so much respect for the source material.
Yeah, and you know what? Probably one of the major reasons why it's like that, other than the writers being huge fans themselves, is the showrunner of the Flash has been writing for DC for I don't even know how long, but a while. He's also going to be co-producing. He co-produces Arrow, and he's going to be co-producing Supergirl. But he's been writing for DC for a while. He's had a role in basically everything DC for the last few years. And several episodes have been written by Jeff Johns, who has written some huge stories, especially Flash stories, over the years, including the one that this season at least is primarily based on, which is Flash Rebirth. It's basically brought Barry Allen back into the DC world. Mm-hmm. And this season so far is it's kind of a mix of New 52 and then some older Flash stuff.
Yes.
Which is good because, you get best of both worlds. But, it has to be expected, given the new material. There is a lot from New 52.
It's a way for old fans and new fans to connect.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're gonna do like a quick overview of the season, then we'll get into particular episodes. So like I said, this series is primarily based on Flash Rebirth, and the pilot is very, very, very similar to it, particularly like basically how Barry gets his powers. I'm just going to do the cast real quick. Barry Allen, a.k.a. The Flash, is played by Grant Gustin. I think he's an awesome choice. He does a great job.
Yeah, he is excellent.
His combination of smarts, energy, and goofiness.
Yep, he does it all.
So that was a great casting. Barry's dad, Henry Allen, is actually played by the guy who was the Flash in the 1990 series, John Wesley Shipp, which is it's funny, but it's awesome also.
Yeah, I never watched that series ever.
I haven't either, but CW put it online. I still haven't watched it yet, but it's from the 90s, so it's not expected.
How many seasons are there?
I think there's like 50 episodes.
That's all right.
Yeah, and Mark Hamill was on it, and today I found out Bryan Cranston was on it at one point too, but it's just cool that a former Flash is playing the dad of the Flash, which I really like. And for those who don't know, Henry Allen, Barry's dad, goes to jail. Wrongly goes to jail for basically what the police... All the evidence pointed to him that he murdered Barry's mom, even though we know that he really didn't.
Yeah, he's an innocent man, wrongfully accused, but all the evidence points towards him.
Yeah, exactly. Which was very intentional by the person who actually killed Barry's mom.
Yes.
Following up, we got Tom Cavanaugh, who plays Dr. Harrison Wells. Cavanaugh has been around a lot. One of his most recognizable roles, at least that I remembered him from, was his role as JD's brother on Scrubs.
That's all I really remember, to be honest.
He
has been around.
He has been around, but like that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think I've seen every Scrubs episode.
Yeah, and you know what? He's a great actor, and Harrison Wells is he was created for the show, and he is basically the creator of Star Labs and the Particle Accelerator.
Yes.
And yeah, Kavanaugh does really great job in this episode. or I mean in the series itself, but right from the start, you don't really get a full grasp of Harrison Wells himself. He's kind of like mysterious, but over the season, like we'll get more background info on him and everything like that. But it's intentionally ambiguous. And one thing, every time he says Mr. Allen, it kind of reminds me of Agent Smith from The Matrix.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. And then playing Joe West is Jesse L. Martin, who is Iris's dad and Barry's adoptive father. And he was actually on Law & Order for like 10 years or something, which is what I instantly recognized him from.
Yeah, because like I never like sat down and like followed Law & Order, but it's one of those shows where it's like there's an episode I'm like it's like entertaining. Like,
yeah. And, you know, it's perfect that he was on Law & Order for so long because he's got the whole cop thing down. And then in the show, he's a cop.
Was he a cop or a lawyer in
He
Law
was
&
a
Order?
detective.
Oh, he was a detective?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then next we got Iris West herself, played by Candace Patton, who Barry is in love with. It's his wife in the comics. And in the show, she's the girlfriend of Eddie Thawne, who is Joe's partner. But yes, I agree with the whistle.
Yeah.
Iris. She is quite good looking.
Yeah, I'll call her Lady Godiva. She's chocolate.
Yeah, one thing the show has done with the West family is made them black or African American, which is kind of reflecting how
Black or African American are the same thing?
It depends on, you know, the proper usage that you want to use.
I think black is all right.
Hey, you never know. People are sensitive, all right?
Yeah, it's true. People
Anyway,
are really sensitive.
Yeah, which is what they are currently in the comics anyway, at least in the New 52. Then we got Carlos Valdez playing Cisco Ramon, who is part of Team Flash. He's Vibe in the comics, and he basically names all the villains and creates all the tech and stuff used in the show. And
In a really hilarious way.
in a very hilarious way. I think he's hysterical.
Yeah, it's like because it's like there's sometimes there's corniness, and you're like, but like this is like so corny, it's funny,
Yeah.
and like it works really well.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? He's kind of like, he's got the energy of like a comic fanboy. Like it's basically like if we
that's
were in
actually-
the show,
yeah,
that's who
that's
we'd
so
be.
true. Yeah, and like he's thinking of the names and everything. Like that's what we would do. Like,
Yeah, he's like so overly excited about everything, and it's like it's perfect. Honestly,
Like even the villains are like killing people. Like
yeah, he's like
missed.
Oh,
Like-
yeah, he comes up with the names, and sometimes it takes him a couple tries, but he's still pretty good. He just gets funnier and funnier, and he also wears a lot of pop culture shirts. Like he's had some Star Wars ones, and
I haven't really noticed because I'm not too far into it.
yeah, the Star Wars ones come later, but his shirts are usually very pop culture based, which is just also as cool. Then we got Danielle Panabaker playing Caitlin Snow, who is Killer Frost in the comics. In the show, she is not yet Killer Frost. If she becomes Killer Frost, we don't know yet, but it's always a possibility. She's the fiance of Ronnie Raymond, who is Firestorm in the comics, or part of the Firestorm Matrix in the comics. She kind of plays the worried mom role of Team Flash, which, you know, there's always one.
Yes.
And then we got Rick Cosnett, who plays Eddie Thawne, who's Joe's partner and Iris' boyfriend. He shares a last name with basically Barry Allen's biggest villain, Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, which is kind of, the writer said it was intentional just to like, you know, just to mess with people. You know, you don't know exactly, like if you knew that going in, you'd be like, oh, I wonder if he's Eobard. But, you know, that's just something that the writers intentionally did to make you think and kind of mess with you a bit, which was, you know, my initial reaction when I found out that was his casting. But he's Eddie Thawne, not Eobard. At least we don't know yet. And then we got
It's like weird to roll like Eddie Thong. Like
yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't sound right.
No, yeah, it does sound weird. And then we got Robbie Amell, who is the cousin of Stephen Amell, who plays Oliver Queen on Arrow, which is just, you know, a little fun fact. Like I said, he's Ronnie Raymond, part of the Firestorm Matrix. So far in the show, he's just one half of it, though, and that the writers have said from the beginning. He's Caitlin's fiance and was the head engineer of the particle accelerator.
Root beers for us.
Because he's a nice guy.
Yeah. And actually, in our next subject for the day, Chris is going to actually join in with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start with the pilot after giving the background. So we're gonna. It starts off with a younger Barry Allen. It's basically a flashback. Barry gets woken up.
The one Jared Fogle would rather hang out with.
Wow, that's fucked up. Wait, what does Jared's subs and his taste in women have in common?
What?
They're both 6 and 12.
Wow. We'll never get picked up.
No. So Barry gets woken up by screaming in the middle of the night. Goes down. One thing to take important note in that scene, thank you, buddy, is all the liquid in the room floating around. And that we'll actually see several times in the episode and throughout the series. So it's something to keep an eye on if you've watched it or are currently watching it. So then he runs downstairs. He sees his mom basically surrounded by balls of lightning. And we see 2 shades of lightning, red and yellow, which is pretty significant. And they're basically circling Barry's mom. We get a quick glimpse of a man in yellow suit as one of the figures running at super speed, which is
Professor Zoom.
Professor Zoom or Reverse Flash,
Flash,
whichever you want to refer to it. It does get discovered later. I will say right now it's not Professor Zoom. It's just a Reverse Flash.
Oh, it's just a Reverse Flash.
Because Zoom is the villain of the second season. So
yeah. All right.
That's established already.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I'm not really far into it yet.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But, it just came out at Comic-Con. That's the only reason I'm telling you now.
Well, thanks.
No problem. And then for the next several episodes, he'll be strictly referred to as the Man in Yellow. So then we meet current day Barry. He works CSI for Central City Police Department, which if you watched Arrow and saw kind of the backdoor pilot into it.
Imagine if there was a CSI Central City, like a spin-off of The Flash, but in the CSI universe.
That'd be great.
I would
You'd
love
have Ted Danson as the head of the CSI.
Oh, wow, that would be awesome. Ted Danson needs to come back.
He was on CSI, but CSI, I think, got canceled.
Yeah.
If not, it should be. But yeah, his examination of the crime scene and the animations that are going through his mind while it just show how Barry's extremely smart. And he may seem goofy, but he actually is like incredibly smart. He's like a genius.
Yeah, I like that too. He just does it really well, and but he's like surprisingly smooth at the same time.
Yeah, he's like awkward, but he does have a lot of smoothness to him.
Yeah, he can pull. It's weird. Like he can pull himself out of a situation. Like even though he's like goofy and I don't know. It's relatable because he's not so extreme.
Yeah, exactly. And then Barry's time on Arrow is actually referenced by Captain Singh, who is the captain of Central City Police. He mentions how Barry took a trip to Star City, which served as the backdoor pilot, which created the buzz that got this pilot made. And the pilot for The Flash was actually the CW's highest rated and most watched show in their history.
They didn't have like 6 million views or something like that.
It was.
Or it had a rating. Sorry,
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what it is, but yeah, it was like over 6 million.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, for the CW, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and you know what? That's better than most network television shows right now, actually, because of declining viewership and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't even think like the Tonight Show does like really well. That's like the only like real. I mean, that's a different type of show, but
yeah. But 6+ million for a channel like the CW is huge. Like even Breaking Bad, up until its last season, it started getting numbers like that. Game of Thrones gets numbers like that. But those are huge like cultural phenomenons.
Yeah, but like a cultural phenomenon is like 6 million views.
Yeah.
So The Flash is up there.
Yeah, and that was just on its pilot. I mean, it had steady numbers throughout the entire season, which is great.
I looked up the numbers yesterday after I finished like the 4th episode, and I just was curious, and like the average was like anywhere from 3.5 to 4 million. The average, which is like awesome.
It really is. And you know what? Good for them because not too many episodes in, they got renewed for a second season right away, which pretty early on is great, and it just shows you the quality of the show and everything. So then, basically, Iris and Barry go to the event, which is like a huge event. It's the particle accelerator getting turned on by Star Labs. It's supposed to revolutionize science and all that. It's basically like It's the comic book world of the Hadron Collider, if you know what that is, and like the God particles and all that stuff. Yeah, so it's supposed to change science forever. And then we end up meeting Eddie Thawne for the first time after Barry gets beat up by a kid who took Iris's laptop. Find out he's transferred from Keystone City, which is another comic book reference because it's home of the original Flash, Jay Garrick.
The very first Flash, the Golden Age Flash.
Yeah, the Golden Age Flash, who is also going to be in the second season of Flash, which I'm extremely excited for.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Season 2 is literally going to be speedster overload, because this isn't spoilers right now because it's been announced at Comic-Con and everything, and it's not giving away the plot, but it's going to be Barry, Jay Garrick, Wally West, and Zoom.
That's great.
Which, yeah, like,
and what's cool about that too is like they're like I just imagine that the budget is going to be much better because of the viewership. So like,
oh, definitely.
And not that so far the special effects are bad. They're not bad at all. Like,
they're good for what their budget probably is.
Exactly, it's good for what their budget probably is. But now that they're confident, like with having that many speedsters and using that many special effects, like their budget has to be at least somewhat better for them to be confident in order for that to look good.
Yeah, and for like most TV shows, especially for something like the CW, their budgets are usually pretty small, but it's really great for a comic book show, especially something where it like the Flash, where it's very comic booky in terms of the powers and all that. To have a solid special effects is really important.
Yes,
they do pull it off well, and throughout the season it gets better and tighter and stuff. So then we get, in Barry's lab, we get a glimpse of him looking at this corkboard investigation of his mom's murder. It looks like, if you ever seen like a conspiracy theorist corkboard, it's got like different articles, different pieces of information, then it's all tied together by a string.
It kind of looks like Robin Williams' wall in that movie 1 Hour Photo.
Yeah, or if you watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when Charlie's in the mailroom going nuts trying to connect the conspiracy of the mail.
or if we want to get back to like something that like people might know from that listen to the show, kind of like The Question, like any room that guy's ever in, like when he's investigating.
Yeah, The Question, the comic book character who.
Which, shout out to our last podcast. I wanted to bring him up about like what we would want to see in the DCEU, the extended universe, and I forgot to say him. I just want people to know that
he's a good choice. he's a really funny character, actually.
Yeah, The Question. In fact, if that's a character I would love to see in like a Flash episode. The Question.
That'd definitely be cool, and it's not out of the realm of possibility. So
possibility.
I said possibility, or possibility. Yeah, if you want.
That's what I'm going for. Put some beers in there.
All right. Well, whatever. So then, Joe West and his partner end up going to search for the bank robbers who, which the opening scene, investigative scene was covering, which are the Martin brothers, who both do play roles in the comics. They get in a shootout with the Martin brothers, who try to escape in a plane, and then as that happened, the particle accelerator explodes, releasing a giant wave of dark matter and antimatter and all shit like that.
Yeah.
And then the plane blows up. So Joe's happy about that, but his partner dies. Shit happens.
Real sensitive, Pat.
Well, because then it makes room for Eddie, who's a more important character anyway.
Yeah.
So then we flash back to Barry in his, or not flashback, we go back to Barry in his lab, and he's trying to close the roof after he sees the accelerator explode and the wave of energy coming towards him. Because for whatever reason, he had his lab's roof open while it's raining and lightning and shit.
Well, wasn't it glass and it broke through glass?
Well, yeah, it had like another protective layer also that could shut over that.
Oh, true.
But as he's trying to close it, the glass shatters and he gets struck by a lightning bolt. Then he goes flying, knocks over all the chemicals on him, which, if you're familiar with the comics, is what leads to him getting his powers. And then you even see, like, as he's unconscious, like, electricity kind of running through his skin and stuff. So that was basically, like, a direct adaptation of how he gets his powers in the comics.
Yeah. Very, very, very true to the source material.
Yeah.
As true as it could be.
Yeah. And you know what? This episode is particularly, like, faithful to the source material because it's written by Jeff Johns, who wrote Flash Rebirth. So it's the writer of the comic story writing this episode. So it's going to be very faithful. And it's pretty significant that Jeff Johns wrote it because he's the chief creative officer of DC. So basically, he oversees all the shows, all the movies, and all that. So he took time from that to basically get this show off the ground. And he writes a couple more episodes throughout the season, actually. So then we get Barry ends up in a coma for 9 months. And he wakes up in Star Labs and freaks out. And that's when we first meet Cisco and Caitlin. So he jumps out of bed, which...
Was he singing the thong song?
Oh, yeah, it was whatever. Yeah, it was some shitty song. And Cisco's like, oh, I saw him like it on his Facebook. So Cisco's a creep, Facebook stalker. So Barry jumps out of bed.
No, wait, did you not get the reference I just made? Cisco, like, let me see.
No, I didn't get that at first. I see what you did there now.
Baby.
So Barry jumps out of bed, which,
thong.
if you know anything about people being in comas, they get their muscles atrophy, or however the fuck you say it.
I don't know.
So it basically means that their muscles wear away. But Barry's able to jump right up.
Oh, muscular Never mind.
Whatever.
I thought I had it.
So he jumps up and he's able to jump up and have no problems because of his accelerated healing factor, which is one of the powers he has.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was pretty funny because he looks in the mirror. He's like, oh, lightning gave me abs, which is pretty funny. And, you know, if that works, strike me with lightning, whatever. Got to do what you got to do. So we meet Dr. Wells, who's now in a wheelchair as a result of the explosion. And they go around on a stroll of Star Labs, except Wells kind of just rolls. He doesn't stroll.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
And then a big Easter egg while that's happening, we see a busted open cage with a nameplate on it, and it says Grodd.
Yeah, I got a nerd boner when I saw that.
Yeah, when I first saw that, I did the same thing, and it's just a huge, shout out to Gorilla Grodd, who's
one of the main villains of the Flash.
Yeah, he's one of the main villains.
He's like
of the
a
Flash.
main Justice League villain.
Yeah,
too.
he's in the Legion of Doom and all that. Basically, Grodd is have you ever seen the Planet of the Apes movies? He's that, except better, and has psychic powers and all that shit. And it's just way cooler.
Yeah.
And I read up on it, and the producers actually had to fight with the network to keep that in. They, for whatever reason, the network wanted them to cut out
the Grodd cage.
Grodd cage.
Well, they probably. I could see maybe the network. Well, wait. Is there an official story or no?
They didn't really say what the real reason was, that they just pressured them to get it out, but the producers fought and ended up winning, thankfully.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're probably kind of worried. The Arrow is kind of very set in reality in a certain way, and as much as it can. I mean, I don't really watch the show, but from what I know, and the Flash is already has a power, so I can see them being like, well, wait, are people be interested if they know there's a gorilla he's gonna fight?
Well, they established when they announced Flash pilot that it was going to be very comic booky. It's not going to be as grounded in reality as Arrow.
Right.
So with that, they basically would accept anything out of the ordinary, or you would expect them to. Let's see. Then we get back to some scenes while Barry's in the hospital. He gets rushed, and we're like, oh, is he still alive? And then because of the Speed Force being in Barry, his heartbeat was moving so fast that the doctors thought he was constantly going into cardiac arrest.
Cardiac arrest.
Yep. Cardiac arrest.
Cardiac erect.
Yeah, exactly. He got erect from the lightning. And it was too much for the EKG machine, and it was causing severe power surges at the hospital, which, it's freaky enough to see your friend or whatever getting in a coma, and then for that to happen at the same time, you're expecting him to die. All right. Then he goes to find Iris at Jitters. She's so happy to see him. And then we get Barry's first instance of moving basically faster than what's going on around him when this waitress starts to drop something.
That was a cool scene.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically what happens, this waitress trips and goes to drop her tray of drinks or whatever, and then Barry just...
She's a dumbass.
Yeah. Barry just basically moves so fast that it seems at that point that everything's moving in slow motion. It's not just that things are moving in slow motion around him. Then we get our first glimpse of an evil metahuman in Clyde Martin, who was supposed to have died in that plane crash. His powers, Cisco ends up calling him the Weather Wizard, and his powers are to control the weather.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And you know what? The Weather Wizard is a member of the Rogues in the comics, but it's not this Martin, but it's still one of the Martins. Then at the police station, everyone greets Barry. Find out Eddie is Joe's partner. And then Barry uses his powers for the first time when some dude that's getting arrested goes to grab a cop's gun, and Barry just bolts over there and grabs a cop's gun and basically just stops the guy. So that's his first instance using his super speed. Then he goes outside, his hand shaking at super speed, and then he ends up testing out his running abilities and crashes into a car. And then what comes up next is another huge Easter egg and comic book reference. Team Flash goes to Ferris Airfield, which is basically the Green Lantern. Hal Jordan specifically, that's where he worked as a pilot and everything. So it's just another cool shout out to the comics and everything. And kind of a tease, because you're like, oh, is Hal Jordan coming on?
Yeah, that would be cool. The thing, though, about that is I don't know how... And I'm not, I don't want this to be a knock for the show, but, how do you think the special effects would work with Green Lantern? Because you need really good special effects for that Green Lantern.
Yeah, you do. And, I don't know, maybe the second season, they're getting, a huge budget increase or something.
How big, though? How much money does CW have?
Honestly, I don't know. But CW is owned by Warner Brothers. So...
True.
They can do it. But I don't know if they will. But so far right now, there's no real hope for a Green Lantern to show up, especially not Hal Jordan or any of the major Lanterns, because they're all basically reserved for the movies.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks, because a lot of characters are like that in the DC TV universe. So even Arrow has had problems getting certain characters on there, which stinks, but they make up for it otherwise. So then they test Barry's speed, and Cisco gives him an earpiece in the shape of a lightning bolt, which of course is the Flash symbol.
Yes.
Which is just cool.
Bazinga.
And fuck off. If you ever see somebody with a Flash shirt and say Bazinga, expect to get punched in the face. Or you should at least.
That happened to
get
Patrick.
punched in the face. I wanted to punch that dude in the face so fucking
Oh,
hard.
Bazinga.
Fuck The Big Bang Theory and fuck Sheldon Cooper. That show blows.
Oh, gosh.
So then during the test, while Barry's, I think he broke 300 miles an hour or something, he remembers the night of his mom's murder and gets distracted by the image of the man in yellow stabbing his mom, basically. But once he gets back to Star Labs, his broken wrist or whatever heals in 3 hours, which Barry first learns he has accelerated healing. And given his speed, his healing is even faster. So then he tells Cisco, Wells, and Caitlin about what he saw that night, which they're kind of confused about, because that means there was metahumans, at least back then, not created by the particle accelerator, but they don't know for sure what was going on back then, or if he was just delusional to it. Then Barry finds out Iris and Eddie are secretly dating, which stays that way throughout most of the season, and becomes a C plot, one of the minor plots. Here and there, it gets a little bit bigger.
I would say the major
episode.
B plot is them trying to prove Barry Allen's dad innocent.
Yeah,
and the C plot is Iris and
other stuff like that.
Yeah,
but Barry being in love with Iris gets really upset, gets stuck in the friend zone, which kind of sucks.
Dude, he's friend zoned hard
as fuck,
dude. And it's worse than what happened to Ryan Reynolds in Just Friends, I think.
Yeah, and you can tell there was
he's brother zoned. Like,
Yeah, and you know it's kind of appropriate because they were kind of raised brother and sister after Joe like not even adopted him, but just took care of him for a long
yeah.
time. And there was one scene when they're walking, and Barry and Iris are walking, and he's like, "Oh, like I want to tell you something about like this relationship." She goes, "Oh, Barry, I know what you're gonna say," and you're like, and he's like, "No, I don't think you do." 'Cause he's gonna say he's in love with her, and she goes, "Listen, just because I'm basically your sister," and at that moment, you're just like,
Dude, I cringed when I heard that.
cringe hard
I was
as
like,
fuck.
no,
Barry's just like,
because we've all been there.
Barry's just like, God damn it, like,
Yeah, dude, dude, it was bad. Like, I had to like pause it and like go get a drink. I was like, oh gosh, that was so hard to watch.
It
I'd
was.
rather watch like open heart surgery than have to like experience that again. I hate watching Friend Zoned like hard.
Yeah, I felt really bad for Barry. So then Barry finally encounters Martin, and Martin goes all weather wizard on him and gets away. Then Barry confronts like the Star Labs crew and finds out he's not the only one who's affected, and that they just find a whole bunch of cases of people with powers causing a whole bunch of shit around Central City. Which basically everything's going to take place in Central City, in case you couldn't figure that out by now, because that's where Barry lives. So then he runs to Starling City to meet with Oliver, who encourages him and says one thing that he said that stuck out with me. He goes, "Barry, I don't think like the lightning struck you by accident. I think it chose you," which references a story in the comics where future Barry gets absorbed into the Speed Force and then strikes like whatever the present day Barry was in that story, given the powers. They haven't said if that's what they're going to do on the show, but it just made me think of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about that because it's like, well, then who struck the first Barry?
Yeah, exactly. But it, at least in my opinion, it gains some validity as the season goes, and you'll probably start thinking about that, you know, once you start getting into it, especially in the later episodes.
Yeah.
It's just something to keep in mind, something that stuck out to me. And Oliver's actually the one who gives them the nickname of the Flash in this episode. Let's see. And Martin's kind of the first of the rogues we see, even though the rogues haven't officially started yet. The rogues start and come together in a later episode. So it's just like a quick glimpse into one of the members, basically. Then Barry ends up fighting Weather Wizard with his powers, and Joe discovers that Barry has his powers, and he's like, "Oh, promise me you'll never tell Iris," which basically happens with any superhero. Just promise me you won't tell so-and-so.
Yeah, I know. It's like when Dennis Leary, like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
was like telling
Amazing Spider-Man.
yeah, it's like, don't ever tell Gwen. She can never know.
Yeah, so, like, of course that has to happen because it's kind of like a superhero trope. And then why don't you talk about how the episode ends, if you remember?
Yeah, it was essentially like he fights Weather Wizard. Like there's Officer West comes, or Detective West comes, and he sees like the guy, like he sees Weather Wizard like controlling all the tornadoes flying around, and he sees Barry. From what I remember, he sees Barry. He knows it's Barry by this point, right?
Yeah, Barry basically he figures out it's Barry because Barry goes up to him and talks to him.
Yeah.
Well, he took his like mask off.
Like fights him, blah blah blah, and then they start going at it. I mean, I don't really want to talk about how he. I do remember. It's not because I don't remember, but I don't really want to talk about how he beats him because I feel like that should be like. I mean, you should watch the episode.
Yeah. What I was actually talking to, what happens after that? If you remember, with Wells.
With that?
With Wells, Dr. Wells.
No. Oh. Pretty much. Okay, so Dr. Wells, he like rolls along into like a secret room, and stands up, and
so he's not really paralyzed.
He's not really paralyzed.
He's just trying to cut the lines at Disney, I think.
Yeah. He wow. And then he opens up a certain newspaper article.
Well, he has a futuristic computer, and he goes, Gideon, show me the future. And then the news article. Go ahead.
From what I can remember, what it said, didn't it say something Flash 2013, 2033?
Yeah, the date of the article is,
I can't remember right now.
I think like October 25th, 2024. And the headline that we're looking at, that's like the major headline, is Flash vanishes in crisis.
So Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, which is a reference to that.
Okay, now I don't know why I can remember that.
So then we're like, oh, okay. Wells, for whatever reason, has access to the future.
Yeah.
Which they don't address yet, but it's just something to keep in mind. It was kind of like something to be like a oh shit moment at the end. And it plays like that develops more and plays a huge role as the season goes on. And there was actually another Easter egg, the bottom left corner. It says Wayne Tech and Queen Industries merger complete.
Yes.
Which is obviously a Batman reference, even though they can never use Batman on the show, unfortunately. Or fortunately, it depends how you look at it. But I was kind of surprised that they were able to actually reference Wayne Tech.
No, see, I think that's fortunate because how much Batman is in everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's too much. But, we have a Flash show and we're getting a Flash movie. But the Flash movie is necessary for the DC cinematic universe or extended universe.
Yeah, but I mean, overall for a first episode, it was great. It was great.
It really was. It was a great pilot. I actually liked it better than Arrow's pilot, and I especially liked it better than the fucking Supergirl pilot, which hopefully that was not the official pilot that they're going to use. But yeah, the Flash's pilot was awesome, and it shows with the amount of viewings it got. And I think it got like AV Club gave it like an A or A minus or something like that.
Really?
Which is good because they're kind of sticklers about everything. But it was definitely an awesome pilot, and it really sets up, like, gives you hope for, like, how the rest of the season is going to be and actually turns out. So definitely check it out, at least the pilot. And were you hooked right away?
Yeah, I fell in love right away. It was it's just fun. It's fun to watch.
It is, and you know what? It's a great, like, it's kind of refreshing compared to Arrow, which Arrow is always like dark and brooding and gritty.
But, yeah, and Daredevil was like that too.
Yeah.
And like even though like I think Daredevil's pilot was better in my opinion, I had more fun watching this. It was just like it was a good time,
Yeah.
Like and like whereas I don't know, I don't know if I want to say like a better. I just I don't know. Like I guess I would really have to sit down. Right now, I think I like Daredevil's pilot a little more. But like when I really start to think about it, like Flash's pilot was like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It was just like you're like, oh, that was great, Where Daredevil, you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, Flash is definitely a nice...
Two different things. Like I feel like
they are completely different.
Yeah.
Flash is more fun, while Daredevil and Arrow are very like dark.
Yeah.
So it's a good change of pace, and you don't want dark and gritty all the time. You need some fun.
Yeah.
And if you watch comic shows, definitely check out The Flash. So we're going to take a little break right now, and we'll be back shortly.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Awesome Sunday Show. Took a little break, but now we're back because we know your ears are dying to hear our voices. So we're continuing The Flash. So Pat, this is episode 2. Do you know what's the title of episode 2?
It's Fastest Man Alive.
It's a great title.
Which in the intro, that's what Barry refers to himself anyway. So it's fitting.
Yeah. So pretty much like the episode is a straight continuation of like it's like literally like the next day. And
yeah, pretty much.
Kind of what I like about this episode, like not like we're gonna get into spoilers again, but just like kind of like a non-spoiler statement. It a lot of times Well, actually, a lot of superhero shows now, like it's never like. I like how it's kind of like the next day. They don't like they don't make it. They don't make you feel like it's a. It could be like a next week kind of thing. You know.
This one's kind of like that though.
You think so?
Because it's definitely not next day, because him and Cisco are like behind Caitlin's back, have been going around solving crime or stopping crimes and helping people.
I didn't really. That's true. I didn't really pick up on it. Like I literally thought it was like the next day.
No, it's definitely at least a week or two, a couple of weeks. Nothing, not like a huge jump in time.
Literally,
but
I'm watching the show. I'm like, oh, it's like tomorrow. Like,
yeah, it's just because he's still got to get used to his speed real quick, and it takes more than
the show might just be moving pretty fast.
Yeah. So in this episode, Barry and Cisco team up to start helping random crimes around the city and taking people out of burning buildings and shit like that.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Like, I remember them. I was like watching that too, so I don't know why I thought that, but whatever.
Yeah, and not Cisco. Caitlin gets real pissed about it because she's super mom.
Yeah.
And then what we find out is that, well, he doesn't come out with it right away, but while Barry's running, sometimes he just like stops and gets really lightheaded, which is because of his crazy fast metabolism.
Well, they explain that he's becoming a hyperglycemic.
Yeah, because of how fast he's burning everything off.
Which kind of makes sense. Well, actually, it makes sense perfectly. Like,
yeah, it makes. So he initially doesn't say anything about it, but at some point in the episode, when they check his vital, because his suit is connected to like a vital monitoring system that's set up at Star Labs, so when he's out in the field, they can keep a track of all his vitals, blood pressure, shit like that, heart rate. So when they finally realize what's happening, Cisco makes him, it's like a protein bar that I wrote down, it's equivalent to like like a shit ton of tacos. He says like 800 tacos per bar or something like that. Oh, the bars have as many calories as 850 tacos per bar.
That I remember him saying something like that. Now,
that's fucking crazy.
I mean, that's like if we ate that, we'd just be fat right there. Like,
we'd go into diabetes right away.
I don't actually. What would happen if we ate that? Like
our cholesterol would go through the roof. We'd probably gain like
we'd probably
10 pounds in a matter.
We would have to go to the hospital.
Yeah,
easily.
Probably.
I wouldn't though.
But we don't have the superhero metabolism.
Yeah.
Another major focus of this episode is Simon Stagg, head of Stagg Industries, who's appeared in like a couple different DC things.
Well, also fun fact, that actor that played Simon Stagg has been in a lot of movies. He was actually in a lot of episodes of Tales from the Crypt when it was on HBO.
Really?
Yeah, and I forget his name, but he was also in the Shawshank Redemption too.
Oh.
He's just been around. He's just like that actor. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I mean, I'll look it. I mean, while we're looking it up, like while we're talking, I'll look it up. But that actor, when I saw him, I was like, oh, dude, like you had. Just a little side note. I'm sorry to distract, but that actor is in a movie called Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, and it's really, really good. It's so.
I can only imagine.
No, it's like when you hear the title Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, you think that there's no way this movie can be good. But it's Billy Zane as the demon, and that actor as the demon hunter, and they're in a hotel / brothel that used to be a church. And they have to fight off these horde of demons. Stop judging me. It's really fucking good. I'm telling you.
All right.
But let's go.
Word for it.
Let's go back to why we're talking about.
Right. So a little background on Stagg. He's been like he's shown up in a lot of Batman stories, and including Arkham Knight most recently, the video game. He was on the Justice League TV show, and in the comics, he creates Metamorpho in both the comics and the Justice League TV show, who's just like a crazy, powerful.
He's kind of
like power absorber, kind of.
Yeah, he's just been all around the DC universe, pretty much. Like, he's kind of like he's like a multi-billionaire. He's kind of like the subpar Lex Luthor, almost, in a way.
Yeah, an older, shittier version.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has his bodyguard Java, who's also in the comics.
William Sadler.
William Sadler.
That's the guy's
He
name.
just sounds like a villain.
Yeah, that's the actor's name. All right, but yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, his bodyguard Java is also in the show. He also had a role in Metamorpho. I think he set the guy who became Metamorpho up. But I guess we're not going to see Metamorpho because, well, spoiler, but we'll get to the end of the episode. Why not? We'll see why.
Yeah. Well, now I'm pretty sure they have a guess.
Yeah. So he's targeted by a new metahuman, Danton Black, who Cisco dubs Multiplex. Basically, what he can do is he can create and operate clones of himself. And the reason he's after Dag is because Stag... I said Dag, but I meant Stag. He's after Stag because Stag stole his research and took all the credit for it, which, surprise, surprise, an evil billionaire stealing somebody, work. Which
Steve Jobs never did that.
No, never once. The iPad was all his idea. Bill Gates didn't release a tablet in 2003.
Yeah. Dude, you know what Steve Jobs said? He's like, I had this idea, he goes, of like making something really big. This is when he was alive. And he goes, well, how about we shrink it down and make it a phone? And that's where the iPhone came from. I'm like, there's no way you did that.
Yeah, no.
There's no way. Because you have no... oh, God, I can go on a rant about Steve Jobs. I'm an innovator.
Yeah. So at the press conference or award ceremony, we first meet Stag at. He's receiving an award for stealing Danton Black's research. It's actually right for that. And that's when we first see Danton Black after he robs a gun store, and Barry's like, that's not that interesting, but he figures it out. It's multiple people, blah, blah, blah. He shows up. He still has a tag on his jacket because he burnt through his clothes in a run. Let's see. Joe gets worried about Barry fighting crime as the Flash. Of course, he advises against it, because it's just like...
Well, yeah, it's someone who's like a son to him.
Yeah. And then Barry really pissed me off because then he rips on Joe, goes fucking full asshole on him.
Yeah. No,
so uncalled for.
Yeah, it was just like, but you know what though? Like, you're like pissed off when you watch it, but then like, how many times have like, I mean, like, I don't do it a lot. I like to think I'm a nice person, but I could be wrong. I'm not gonna ask anybody that. but I mean, how many times have you like gone total dick mode on like somebody that didn't deserve it? So like.
Yeah, I know, but like the stuff he was saying, he was like, I'm not your son, you're not my dad, blah blah, blah, just ripping into Joe.
Yeah,
and
I've never seen anything that bad. Yeah,
Joe raised him for like more than half his life.
Yeah,
he's basically his like surrogate dad, and you could just see Joe's heart breaks like right there. I was like,
yeah,
don't fuck with Papa West, Wasn't cool. Oh, speaking of Joe, the other day I was watching Law and Order, the regular Law and Order that Jesse L. Martin, who plays Joe West, was on. And do you remember in the pilot, his original partner before Eddie?
Yeah.
He was in that episode too, and Joe and him actually got into a big fight.
No way.
Yeah. I was just like, and it was just funny, like going back and seeing that after they were partners in the first episode.
Yeah.
So it could have been correlation, and then Joe set him up to get killed. Could be.
You see that? I feel like in a lot of DC movies, you see that. It's like, or just DC stuff in general. Like, it's like Will Smith and Margot Robbie being in that movie Focus.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
now they're in Suicide Squad together. And then like, I feel like Christian Bale was with Heath Ledger or Michael Caine in a movie or something like that.
Yeah,
before the
Prestige.
What's up?
The Prestige.
That was with Hugh Jack. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Michael Caine was in it too.
Yeah,
because Christopher Nolan used.
But no, but the Prestige was after Batman Begins, though.
All right, well, still.
Yeah.
He's still in more than one movie with Michael.
But I'm sure we can think of examples if we wanted to, but maybe we don't have to go that far.
Yeah. And then in a random scene, Joe finds Barry's evidence and research on everything related to his mom's death, which comes back in the end of the episode with Joe, after Barry and him, reconcile. Joe decides to help him out, which is good because it's kind of fitting because Joe is the one who arrested Barry's dad and sent him to prison. But now he's going to help make up for it by, trying to clear his name and stuff. And then Barry gets his ass kicked by Multiplex. It was like he was getting gangbanged by 6 dudes.
Yeah,
That's how bad he got.
rough.
That's how bad he got beat up.
Yeah, I was like, so I had to shut my eyes.
Let's see what else. Barry loses face with himself. Says him trying to fight crime is a mistake. Boo-hoo. That happens in every fucking comic thing.
But it's at least I can say it wasn't really corny in this episode.
Yeah, that's true. It was deserved. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd feel like that after I got beat
Yeah,
up.
it kind of felt genuine because like he did lose. Like he lost a fight, and it was like the first fight he like lost. You know, like I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
When you lose a fight, you feel like shit. It's just
I know. He's like, I have these powers, and I still get my ass kicked.
Yeah,
That's got to be more heartbreaking than just getting your ass kicked regularly.
yeah.
Then Harrison and Joe have a little chat with each other. Every time I see Harrison and Joe like together, you could just tell that there's some like real tension.
Yeah.
Like, Joe's just like, I don't trust this motherfucker, even if he is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's probably why he likes him less.
It's that cop intuition.
Yeah, probably. He probably saw an episode of Scrubs and said, you know, I saw you drinking beer in the bathtub with rubber duckies. Now you're in a wheelchair.
Dude.
How do you become a scientist from that?
I missed that show.
Such a good show.
That was such a good show. R.I.P. J.D.
Yeah, really. And
Turk.
then Joe asked Wells if he knew Barry was affected from the particle accelerator explosion, because Wells went to the hospital to basically bring Barry to Star Labs to check on him, and it's kind of out of the blue if you think about it. And like, if I was in Joe's position, I'd be kind of surprised. Like, why would he single out Barry?
Mm-hmm.
How do you even know about that? And Wells was like, "Oh yeah, I know, of course, because he watched them. He watched it happen. And when did they show it in the pilot? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it had to have been. It's silly.
Well, I couldn't remember if it was in this episode.
I'm pretty sure it was in the pilot.
Yeah. So yeah, he said he had a feeling Barry gained his powers. We know why. Then Iris, of course, shows Barry that she's been researching, quote unquote, the streak, his temporary media given name. She starts a blog about it.
The Streak is such a bad name.
It really is, but you know what? They could have used the blur, but they used that in Smallville, so they weren't going to use it again.
Oh, I didn't know that. I never really got into Smallville.
It was,
I hear like in that show, like the first 2 or 3 seasons are really good, and then after that, it's like,
They had such a low budget that everything just looked like shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, because I remember them like showing off Darkseid for their final season, and it like did not look good.
No, and Brainiac was just some random dude. And then there's this one scene in Smallville where Clark races Bart Allen, not Barry Allen, Bart Allen, and it's the worst like special effects of somebody running really fast. It's just like you.
But granted, the show is like from 10 years ago.
Yeah, they're literally jogging in place, and then they're trying to make the background like scenery go really fast around them, and it just looks like awful. Like, we could do better than the way they had it, and we can't do shit. So.
Yeah, if I saw that, it would like take me out of like. I'd be like, this looks bad. Like.
Yeah, going back to it is bad. I mean, I didn't get into it at the time, but now it's kind of hard to get into.
Yeah.
Going back to
it. It seems like it's a product of its time.
Yeah. And basically the rest of the episode kind of gets rushed, but it doesn't. It's better that way because we don't really need this episode dragged out. It's not a ton happens in it leading up to like the last 15 minutes, really, other than Barry being a douchebag. Let's see. So Barry goes to Stag Industries to prevent Multiplex from trying to kill Stag. And one thing I liked was as like all those clones of Stag, there was like, I don't know, a couple hundred at one point. They all start shooting at him. Barry does that Matrix move.
Oh,
The
yeah.
bullet in the slow time. I like that. It was a nice little
nod, yeah.
And then we find out Stag ruined Multiplex's opportunity to save his wife, Newhart, resulting in her dying. Barry defeats him by beating up the Prime. And Barry tries to save him, but Black lets himself go because he really has nothing else to live for at that point. His wife's dead. He can't kill Stag.
Yeah, he was kind of a I kind of wish he stuck around.
Yeah, it was...
Because like villains like that are interesting.
Yeah, he could have had a nice role later on, but he's not... I don't know, he's not too huge a villain, but the reason that it was good that it happened is because it like broke Barry a little bit. You know?
I understand that, but like the feeling I have with this episode is like, yeah, he's not that big of a villain. Like
Yeah.
he's not. He's kind of he could be just a throwaway villain, but like that was Mr. Freeze until Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was like, I'm watching this episode. I kind of like had like, I was like, oh, like what if they make this villain like big and they make now he's like then he becomes big in the comics.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was kind of a missed opportunity. But maybe I don't know.
I mean, you could have put any villain in it, and I still think that, like in this episode, and I still think they would have had that villain die because it was important to show Barry that he can't save everybody.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's something that
I agree. I completely agree. It's just like at the time when I was watching it, I was kind of, and like it doesn't make the episode any worse for me.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it would have been just as good either way. Just personally, I would have been like, oh, like I would like to have seen another villain become big through a TV show.
Yeah, but that could happen later on down the line, though. You know, there's still a lot of characters that they could put in.
Yeah.
Both, obscure and, pretty blatant. So then Joe goes to Barry's lab, says he's going to help, like we just mentioned, he's going to help find whoever killed Barry's mom. And they bond over pizza because pizza brings everybody together.
It does.
Pizza will solve any relationship problem, friendship problem. Pizza's there for you all the time.
I know. I mean, like now they make gluten-free pizza.
Yeah.
So if someone's got celiacs, hey, you're good. You can still join in.
Yeah. So then the episode ends kind of interestingly. Wells shows up at Stag's office. And earlier in the episode, we find out that Stag and Wells have history and that they don't like each other, which I can get why, because they're both kind of douchebags.
Douchebags never get along.
No, and they both have something like sinister about them.
I like nice vocabulary.
Thank you. So then Stag says he wants to control and harnesses the Flash power, that we can make more research and make more money. Then Wells stands up, says tell Stag the man in the red mask is called the Flash, or at least he will be in the future. Or, yeah, whatever.
He says something like that.
Something like that,
yeah.
And we know that he has access to some information from the future, or if he's from the future, who knows. And then he just stabs Stag right in the gut. He goes,
right.
The Flash must be kept safe.
Yeah.
He's looking out for his little boy, I guess.
But for why? But why?
Gotta find out.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, and that's basically the contents of the episode. I thought it was another good episode. Pretty good follow-up for a pilot.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's really, like, nothing really wrong with the episode. Like, as far as, like, I didn't like how when Barry was a douchebag, but that doesn't make the episode worse. It's just, that's how they wanted to make you feel.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, I love Barry every second. You gotta have different emotions, different characters at different times.
Yeah, I mean, because that was what makes it human.
Yeah, that, and it would just be boring otherwise. Like,
yeah, no, it would be.
Yeah, like in...
I mean, like, it's kind of like the Adam West Batman series is, like, it's fun to look back to, but it's boring as hell to binge watch because he's the same person all the time.
Yeah, and you know what, I don't know if that was intentional. It probably was intentional, just to add to, like, the campiness and, like, how outrageous they tried to make that show.
That show is outrageous.
It is. You know what I was
Shark
reading?
repellent.
I was reading the other day. Who's the guy that played Robin? Burt Ward or something like that?
Yeah, I forgot. I know what you're talking about.
Apparently, he was a giant douchebag and would like brag about his dick all the time.
That's awesome.
It was real. I forget where I was reading it, but yeah, apparently he like nicknamed his dick and everything, and was like trying to like show off his bulge on.
He's Dick
on
Grayson.
Set. I guess it's fitting, but
yeah.
Yeah, it was just funny.
That's awesome. I mean, like, just because, like, I would hate to work with somebody like that, but it's just like when you see like shows like that, like behind the scenes, like the story, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is literally with the Mr. Rogers that you would see like on TV. Yeah. Like he was the same person. But fun fact, what's his name that played Batman in 1989.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton worked on the set of that show,
Oh, really?
and they would just get high as hell. Like,
Him and Mr. Rogers?
no, not Mr. Rogers. He never
Oh.
smoked, but he knew what was going on.
Oh.
And like Mr. Rogers, like, all right.
I was
like,
gonna say that's the coolest fucking
no,
thing.
Mr. Rogers, like a Baptist minister or something like that.
Yeah, but like, just imagine smoking weed with Mr. Rogers.
No, that'd be insane. Yeah, but like they all just like screw around on set, and it's like a kid show. So like I just think it's funny that like in Batman, like the guy was such an asshole on set.
Well, that about wraps it up for the first 2 episodes. Like I said in the beginning, we will get back to DareDevil eventually.
Yeah,
But I've just been waiting longer to talk about The Flash.
Pat's been super excited.
It's a great show.
Yeah, no, it is. I 100% agree. This show is fantastic. Who do you think is faster, The Flash or Sonic the Hedgehog?
I'm gonna have to go with Sonic the Hedgehog.
You think he's faster?
No, actually, I just had a brain fart. I meant to say The Flash.
Oh,
But yeah,
I was about to say.
I think I had a mini stroke. Yeah,
I
I meant The Flash.
actually like almost died. Like for a second.
I meant The Flash. Yeah, I definitely had a mini stroke there.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sonic kind of suffers because he has that shitty sidekick Tails.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
come
his
on.
friends slow him down so bad. It's like when you see someone like you know is a good person and they just hang out with like the worst people. It's like, dude, come hang out with us. Like, leave those people alone. They just drag you down. That's how I feel about Sonic.
Fucking Tails, dude. He was the worst part about those games.
No, I didn't mind Tails that much because especially in like Sonic 2, like he doesn't need to keep up with you. It doesn't distract. It's like when you play like Sonic Adventure 2 for GameCube or Dreamcast, whatever version you're playing. You're like when you do those stupid Tails missions. I hated that. I just wanted to be Sonic and run fast.
Yeah. I think we should try and set up a Flash versus Sonic run somehow. Like
That'd be like a Goku versus Superman moment.
yeah, well, like the way that YouTube channel Bat in the Sun does like random superhero and villains fight each other.
Yeah.
They should set up a fan video of the Flash racing Sonic.
Or you know what they should do is epic rap battles of history. Should do Sonic
That's a good one.
versus the Flash.
Yeah.
But I feel like that'd be more like Quicksilver versus the Flash. But Quicksilver is nowhere near as fast as Flash
Quicksilver,
or
dude.
Sonic.
Fuck
No,
Quicksilver.
I like Quicksilver.
He's okay, but he's got nothing on the Flash.
No, he's definitely. I agree. I feel like it would be better if it was Sonic and the Flash.
Yeah, I'd rather see that over Quicksilver and the Flash.
Yeah.
All right, well, that wraps it up for this episode. We actually recorded this half of the episode like 2 weeks later than the first half.
I have to ask you, did I say Chris Oleski was coming on the show, like, and then so Chris Oleski was supposed to be on the show, like this next one coming up, but he had to go. He wasn't feeling too well, and so like we recorded that like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And so we're like, we'll be right back, and we're
Yeah.
doing it like 2 weeks later, and like literally everything got in the way. I was like sick as a dog yesterday. Friday we couldn't. We just didn't have time because I had work, and then we were going out. So
yeah, this whole week so we kind of we lost our rhythm, I think, for this half of the episode.
Well,
which
it's all right.
I kind of felt that way, but but
I don't think we didn't lose a rhythm. It just like if you're listening to this, like there definitely is like a weird difference between like the first half and this half.
Yeah, definitely. So
It's
sorry for
noticeable.
that, but shit happens.
It's all right. You're still getting a show, and it's still Sunday, and it's awesome.
Yeah, goddamn right. S.
Oh, and also shout out to Joe Phillips. I saw him at Best Buy today. He said he was going to give us a listen and put out the word of our show.
Joe, I love you.
Love you, Joe Phillips.
Let's hang soon. All right, see you guys.
See ya.